Suncor Energy is bigger than oil sands, so I'll be talking about Suncor Energy, the corporation. And my talk is really about how we enabled water innovation through collaboration. And I think Don gave a great example of a collaborative innovation where we took the wastewater from the Gold Bar facility to our refinery in Edmonton. And I'll talk a little bit more about those, but that was a great segue into my discussion today. Just get this figured out.
This is just a bit of background sound.
Next. Whoops, back. Anyway, the outline of my short discussion will help to inform you what Suncor Energy is. The kinds of collaboration we undertook in order to drive that change, the results that we achieved with respect to water, and lastly, I'll start to finish with an overview of what's coming next for Suncor as we move forward to try to further drive that water performance improvement. And I have some notes because a lot of this stuff is kind of new and hot off the presses. Now I'll give you a little bit of background on Suncor Energy. And our strategy and approach has kind of been redefined. In 2012, we undertook work to relook at the purpose of our company. This really led to really providing more clarity to our mission, vision, and values. Our new mission is we create energy for a better world. Our vision is to be trusted stewards of valuable natural resources. Guided by our values, we will lead the way to deliver economic prosperity, improve social well-being, and a healthy environment for today and tomorrow. Our values: safety above all else, respect, do the right thing, the right way with integrity. These last three are really related to water and the environmental stressors, I believe. Raise the bar, pursue with passion, always add value. Commitments matter. We are all connected and part of something bigger. In 2013, Suncor is focused on integrating this mission, vision, and values into the culture of Suncor. The way we will do this, we are increasing our communication to our employees so that they can really understand what this means. We also want to integrate it and build it into our systems and processes to drive the business. By doing that, we hope to ingrain this into the culture. And this is a big step in the Suncor's why. And what I mean by that, this makes even stronger links to sustainability to drive, our beliefs and our performance as we move forward. Suncor has been an early adopter of sustainability, and it started in the early 90s. And this is just building on that thoughts as we move our company forward, both to provide energy for the world, the country, and move Canada forward. Talk a little bit about our business. Suncor is more than an oil sands company. We are an integrated energy company that starts with the finding of oil and producing it right to the end use customers through our retail stations. We currently have about 550,000 barrels a day of production, and there are three major operation business units that make this happen. We have an oil sands business unit, we have refining and marketing, and we have exploration and production, which is both onshore and offshore oil and gas production. Our retail brand is known as Petro-Canada. We really, produce and sell transportation fuels to for public use. We also have a world-class lubricants manufacturing facility that we produce for both industrial use and personal use. We also invest in renewable energy. We have wind assets in Alberta and Ontario, and we are the largest producer of ethanol in Canada with our facilities in Ontario. And that's a little bit about that nexus that Margaret was talking about, water versus energy, because that ethanol is really being put in place, to meet some of those renewable fuels for transportation. Suncor is also a company focused on growth. We have aspirations to grow our business. In pursuit of this growth, however, we need to ensure that projects that we're looking at are actually adding value. And what I mean by that, we need to add value to our owners, our shareholders, to the stakeholders, and the communities that we also operate in. So, it's really taken another lens at looking at those projects as we move forward to drive that growth within Suncor. I will briefly discuss the role of goals to drive collaboration and innovation. In 2008, I moved from the operating assets in Fort McMurray, the oil sands facilities, and moved into the Sustainable Development Group at Suncor. My boss at that time asked me, my role is really to go find out what are the role of stating publicly environmental goals to drive change in the company. So, I was kind of a change agent working within Suncor, and that work really led to the first set of 4 publicly stated environmental goals by an energy company. We set goals in the areas of water, land, air, and energy intensity. And this was released in our 2009 sustainability report. It got further complicated. As we were setting these goals, that was prior to the merger with Petro-Canada. And then in March of 2009, we did have the merger. And at the time, Steve Williams said, who's now our current CEO, these goals are now for the new corporation, without even really diving into what it meant. And that really made it a lot more complicated. But what I'd like to say, this external goal setting in this nature has had a very positive impact to Suncor. I think it really drove that internal and external collaboration to make change. We have 2 goals that are well in hand, 2 goals that are still challenged, but it's that drive and that aspiration and the need to achieve it that is driving that collaboration. Now I'll discuss collaboration at Suncor. The first overview will provide into how internal collaboration is really driving Suncor. A key part to driving this is what we call operational excellence at Suncor. Operational excellence is really a systematic and pragmatic approach and a repeatable approach of putting system and process in place to drive that collaboration and innovation. So what do we have? Well, we have these technical excellence networks. These are various teams, of which water is one of those teams, that are made up of experts from across the country. These people meet regularly on a consistent basis, and their role is really to talk about common problems, new solutions, and to develop best practices that can be shared throughout the organization. That's a very powerful team that's really driving that positive change in the organization. As well, we've created what we call rapid result teams. These are SWAT teams. We get a bunch of experts in a room to tackle hard problems or to drive positive change. And they use, very systematic process to get to root cause of problems and opportunities and then make things happen to move them forward. The last one I'd like to talk about, in my group, I have a center of excellence with respect to water. These are really water experts, world-leading water experts. And their role is really to find those new innovations that can be applied to Suncor. They identify new water trends. Then they take those out into the business units and help them see how we can apply them to make that change. And that's kind of made up of toxicologists, engineers, multidisciplinary kind of people that have this world expertise in water. As well, when we set those goals in 2008, we had to create a multidisciplinary team that would oversee them. We call that team the Environmental Excellence Leadership Steering Team. I lead that team. It's made up of directors and vice presidents across the corporation. And the role of that team is really to enable and drive those goals within the corporation. So, we kind of use feedback to see how we're doing, and if we don't see what we like, we then put in the things in place to make that achievement continue to happen. And those are really about putting that operational excellence to drive things forward. What has all this produced with respect to water at Suncor? Well, at oil sands, because we have all these things in place, we now have an optimized capital plan for water management. We see at oil sands the reduction of water important both for the environment, but the reduction of our actual operating costs. So when you put those things together, we can drive positive change, both for the business as well as the environment. We also are doing more sharing of water between facilities. Like the EPCOR example, we are now taking the wastewater from our tailings ponds and using that as a feed to our SAGD facilities or our in-situ facilities in northern Alberta. We have we have Firebag and Mackay River as our two SAGD facilities where we're putting that in place. Also, by doing this work, we're increasing the value for our shareholders and our stakeholders. So, by putting those people and experts in place, we've eliminated $300 million of capital and actually optimized the business plan by finding easy solutions once we got the people in the room. It's low-hanging fruit, but it's in a big corporation, by getting the people in the room to have those conversations, that enables those things to happen. And the other thing that's very neat, as you start to improve, it almost becomes an appetite for further improvement. So, you start to believe that you can do it, but then it also challenges other business units to do it as well. And I'll give you an example. Oil sands, we did this big risk management review that really laid out our capital plan and optimized the plan. So, and that was 2 years ago. This year, Refining and Marketing came to us and said, we want to do the same thing to both reduce our risk, but optimize our own plans. So, like I said, it's very contagious as you start to get results, and it's good for the organization. Now I'll talk a little bit about industry collaboration. Well, with the increased environmental expectations being placed on the development of oil sands, industry collaborations such as OSLI, the Oil Sands Leadership Initiative, and COSIA, which Kelly talked about yesterday, the Canadian Oil Sands Innovation Alliance, had to come forward. Starting in 2008, 6 like-minded companies, including Suncor, came together to form OSLI, an industry collaboration effort to improve both the social and environmental performance of our industry. In 2011, further collaboration with more players was orchestrated, leading to the formation of COSIA in March of 2012, I believe. 14 players representing the majority of the oil sands industry are moving forward quickly to drive these improvements. How does this type of collaboration happen? And I think Don alluded to it. I called it leadership, but it was actually courage. When you actually get all those people in the room, it still takes somebody to go first. Somebody first to share the idea and create the conversation. Suncor was one of the leaders, and I say Statoil was another one of the key leaders to make that happen in the original OSLI. And now I'm starting to see that with other companies as we move forward, COSIA. And that leadership is very powerful. I think the other important thing is just creating that conversation. You get all these people in the room. It's in order to innovate, you got to actually collaborate, not cooperate. So you got to have that conversation, and that takes active listening, but also challenging questions in the right manner in order to move the dialogue forward to create those ideas to solve issues. The other thing that's very interesting is we have to create legal structures and frameworks within COSIA. So engineers and lawyers got in a room to carve out where is a safe place to play without giving away the Cadbury secret. So what we all agreed is we don't compete on water. So it was a very easy place to get to start to share on what we're doing with water and how can we move it forward. And we also saw a huge cost opportunity. By putting 14 people in the room for every dollar spent, I can get a value of $14 or $10, depends how optimized it is. So there's huge value if we can share projects as opposed to doing them individually. What has it produced? Well, the sharing of knowledge, the sharing of IP. So we have more than 130 contributions that came through this agreement, worth over $180 million of value, that now I can just go and take and implement if I see it necessary. So that's a big opportunity. We also have created a best practices for the in-situ facilities. We've had 2 workshops where we've got all the operators together. They talk about Warren lime softeners, and they define the parameters that say this is the best way to operate that. It's then the operator's prerogative to go do that at their own facilities. We also built a tailings water pilot plant. The Ausley companies did that, and it was really to develop technologies that would allow us to recycle this water back to the front end of the various facilities. So we had to go and test those technologies, validate them, and we also wanted to test to see if we could release it back to the environment. So that was a huge collaboration, and it's really leading to future projects that I'll talk to at the end of my presentation. And the other thing is we did create an operator certification program for the in-situ industry, and that's being offered at SAIT. It was launched in November of 2012. We'll have our first graduates graduating, I think, later this year. We have 32 in that program, and they're all spoken for by the oil sands companies. And the whole thing is really, in order to improve our performance, we believe we can train those individuals from the get-go. We'll have better, we'll make it better for the environment. We also look at, collaboration outside of our own walls. And I think Don gave one great example. And these are just a couple of examples. We have a lot of external collaboration going on at Suncor. And we participate not only with technology companies, we work with NGOs, we work with think tanks. It's really to push the boundary of our thinking on water and sustainability. NGOs like Ceres and the World Business Council for Sustainable Development really give us that, forward-thinking approach on water. Both looking at it from a risk point of view, what are the leading practices with regards to sustainability and water, and as well engaging with our stakeholder groups to get their input to what we're doing. We also bring in people like Deloitte. Deloitte helped to provide a strategic process for us to look at the risk associated with water, and that risk is now really setting us up as we start to look forward at our new sustainability goals. The other thing that Deloitte does is, the world's moving to a more disclosure on reporting. We have financial reporting. Now we're moving to environmental and other means of reporting. And Deloitte has been our window of setting that up and validating our data for that reporting. Suncor was an early adopter of creating sustainability reports, and Deloitte has been a key part of that. We also collaborate with companies like GE and DuPont. These are really technology providers, but they're also businesses that operate with respect to water as well. And we're getting a lot of insights on how to develop processes and systems to evaluate projects, set up corporate planning processes for environmental practices, as well, bringing solutions outside of the energy industry into Suncor to make change. Our results. What has all this collaboration produced? Well, we are well on course to meet our water goal that we set out in 2009. But we don't only want to meet it, we want to exceed it and now knock it out of the park. As well, as we continue to refine our data, we continue to include more and more water streams into that use. Before, we never used to put in the wastewater stream coming in from EPCOR to our sustainability report, but when we step back and say, we need to put everything there so that we can understand that and look for those opportunities to further reduce our impact. You know, since the merger of Suncor and Petro-Canada, you know, as we start to look at all these things, we continually to reduce our withdrawal and reduce our consumption of water, even though we're growing our production as we move forward. So, you know, still having positive steps. On top of that, you know, we have significantly reduced our water consumption intensity at oil sands by 40% since 2007. We don't have the 2012 numbers yet, but that's going to increase again. You know, the focus on risk reduction and improving operational reliability is really driving our, you know, our overall water performance, our sustainability, and our cost reduction. And, you know, the fact that we have this strategic water plan in place for the integrated oil sands facility gives us hope that we can significantly reduce our cost and our water risk associated with those facilities, really driving the sustainability of that development. I'm doing pretty good, 1:24 in my last slide, so. So looking ahead, you know, at Suncor we have been very avid and successful innovators. It's been mostly reactive innovation. So what we are doing this year is we want, you know, technology development and innovation to be a key part of our, you know, our focus going forward. So by putting clarity on this, putting the organizational structure and process in place, we hope that will make this a huge lever to even make further impact as we move forward, both, you know, on our water intensity, our cost intensity, our people intensity, our energy intensity. It's a big effort for us to put that in place. And my new role will be to go out and look for that sustainable innovation that can help us do that kind of thing. Another big lever is just the integration of the vision, mission, and values into the culture of Suncor. By getting that down to the people level, they can start to say, what can I do to help us achieve, you know, our vision, mission, and values. In March, we just started the development of our post-2015 goals. So we have 5 working teams. Water is one of the key focus areas. It's a multidisciplinary team, and there's 2 outputs we're looking for. An aspirational goal and then performance targets along the way. And we also want to continue to provide leadership and support to drive step change projects for our industry. And there are 2 COSIA projects here I put on the bottom. One is what we call the Regional Water Management Initiative, and that's how can we share water in Northern Alberta amongst all the companies to minimize the impact. The other is what I call the Water Technology Development Center. It's a $100 million pilot plant that we want to connect live to our Firebag operation. And that'll allow us to plug and play technologies so we can get them to market much more quickly. Anyway, on closing, I would just, you know, as you can see, like effective collaboration can be, you know, a very effective way and a catalyst to drive, you know, effective water management strategies. Thank you.